बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम।
शुरू अल्लाह का नाम लेकर जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है।
इन्ना अअतैनाकल कौसर।
ए नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, हमने तुमको कौसर यानी बहुत ज्यादा भलाई अता फरमाई है।
फसल्लि लिरब्बिक वन्हर।
तो अपने परवरदिगार के लिए नमाज पढ़ा करो और कुर्बानी किया करो।
इन्न शानिअक हुवल अबतर।
कुछ शक नहीं कि तुम्हारा दुश्मन ही बेनाम रहेगा।
Honorable guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all of you. On behalf of the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, I welcome you all to the launch of CPSC's special study titled Towards Geo-Economics Engaging East Asia, organized by China-Pakistan Studies Center at ISSI. Our chief guest for today's event is Ambassador Mumtaz Zahra Baloch, Additional Foreign Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Director China-Pakistan Studies Center, Dr. Talit Shabir, for the introductory remarks. Dr. Shabir holds PhD in International Relations from Quaid-e-Azam University. He has also been a faculty member at ISRA, National Defense University, Islamabad. Dr. Talit has been a visiting scholar at Sigir Center for Asian Studies, George Washington University, USA. His research areas are South Asia, Belt and Road Initiative, CPEC, and Pakistan-China relations. He has 4 books to his credit, which includes a poetic collection and a collection of short stories. I would now request Dr. Talit Shabir for his remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Additional Secretary Ms. Mumtaz Zahra Baloch, Ambassador Azad Ahmed Chaudhry, Director General Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, I would like to extend very warm welcome to all the guests who have joined us for today's launch of CPSC Special Study 2022, titled Towards Geo-Economics Engaging East Asia. Pakistan has been pursuing close partnership with countries of East Asia collectively and bilaterally via its East Vision, the Vision East Asia. It was a recognition of East Asia's strategic significance, coupled with the region's economic prowess that makes it an attractive site for regional and global powers. East Asian nations established the region's economic vehicle, namely Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, in August 1967. Since then, ASEAN has witnessed tremendous economic growth with collective GDP nearly 2.5 trillion US dollars, which is 34% of global GDP. Pakistan, being well aware of the region's economic potential, launched the Vision East Asia policy to establish trade links with economic giants of the region. The Vision East Asia envisages deepening relations in multiple fields and institutional linkages with ASEAN member states. The organization has been working tirelessly for economic prosperity with trade integration and made efforts to promote peace and foster harmony with other regions of the world. East Asian economies are growing at fast pace and offer immense possibilities for increasing trade cooperation. Currently, ASEAN-Pakistan trade volume is nearly 11 billion, which is much less than its potential. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to prioritize East Asia in Pakistan's foreign policy and address benign neglect in Pakistan's engagement with East Asian region. At the political level, focus needs to move from occasional engagement to institutional linkages with ASEAN that may lead to qualitative engagement, consultation, and dialogue mechanism at various levels, which may serve Pakistan's political, security, and economic interests. At the economic level, for diversifying Pakistan's economic partners, Looking towards East Asia is imperative that may require upgrading bilateral relationship and economic cooperation with ASEAN members. In order to expand Pakistan-East Asia engagement, Pakistan should pursue proactive political and diplomatic engagement with East Asia at the highest level, and that may be supported by a robust economic diplomacy to sustain the momentum. At the diplomatic level, there's a need to review current engagement with East Asian states and explore avenues for expanding it, focusing on issues of security, counterterrorism, radicalization, and regional security. In the defense sector, East Asian markets are potentially profitable markets for arms exports. There's interest in JF-17 Thunder, fighter jet, anti-tank missiles, and other products. These should be explored, and the defense exports relationship may be built. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, tourism and cultural exchanges between the two sides will be mutually beneficial. Pakistan can design and launch a tourist-friendly policy towards East Asian countries and ASEAN members. Pakistan can explore prompt visa facilities like visa-free entry or issuance of visa within a week for tourists. Such measures will promote people-to-people ties between Pakistan and East Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, CPSC special study is an effort to highlight Pakistan's need to reinvigorate its political, economic, and cultural linkages with ASEAN and East Asia as a whole. We look forward to constructive feedback on the report from our readers and hope that it will be useful reading for policymakers, scholars, diplomatic community, and businessmen alike. Ladies and gentlemen, I once again thank you for joining us for launch of this very important report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Director General, Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, Ambassador Azaz Ahmed Chaudhry for his welcome remarks. Ambassador Chaudhry has served as a member of the Foreign Service of Pakistan for 37 years. His last assignment was as Ambassador of Pakistan to United States of America. Earlier, he served as Foreign Secretary of Pakistan and participated actively in high-level foreign policy discussions. He has authored 2 books, Diplomatic Footprints and Pakistan Mirrored to Dutch Eyes. Sir, I invite you now to take the floor.
Thank you, and very warm welcome to all the participants in this program. And thank you, Dr. Talat and your team for working hard on this. And I know that it took us some time and effort to work on it. And I must also say that I was so pleased that Ambassador Mumtaz Zahra Baloch has accepted to be the chief guest for this. He is responsible for affairs relating to ASEAN countries, but also the whole of East and South Asia. So we are very pleased that, and she was just telling me that she has gone through the book and she found it quite useful in that regard. I'm also grateful to other participants, Ambassador Nagmana. She's always kind. She never declines our request, and she makes time for us. So you're very, very kind. And Raja Amir Saab, sir, thank you very much. We actually wanted to have people who are actually practicing commerce and trade. So Raja Amir Saab has been associated with the actual trade for a long time, and I'm very happy that Majid Aziz Saab is joining us from Karachi by Zoom. And I tell you, Majid Saab, मैंने आपको सुना है, आप बहुत अच्छा बोलते हैं, माशाल्लाह, और you have your heart in the right place. So I'm very happy. Thank you very much for agreeing to join us by Zoom, and look forward to hearing you and all others. And I'm particularly grateful to Ambassador Fong of Vietnam. He's also the kind of dean for ASEAN members. The other day, they organized a wonderful show at Serena. I had the privilege to participate in that. And also Ambassador Adam of Indonesia. So again, thank you very much. Indonesia is the largest country in ASEAN region. and a very friendly country. So we thank both of you for honoring us here, and we hope that someday we'll have, and I had offered an ASEAN event here at this place, where all ASEAN ambassadors, as well as whoever you want to call, would get together. We'll arrange a roundtable or a seminar or whatever, but we want to signify the importance of East Asia, especially ASEAN for us. And that's why you would find that we have accorded high priority. Now, there are two bases for why we worked on this. One is that the national security policy that was approved for us has ordained for us to place higher emphasis on economic security. And within that, geo-economics. I know there are different definitions circulating of geo-economics, and I think some background has been given in this book too. But the idea was that in substance and in optics, it is important for us to give a signal to ASEAN countries that you mean valuable to us, you mean important for us, and therefore we want to engage. And also the geo-economics is something which is at the heart of our work. And I know that a large number of other think tanks and universities are also moving in that direction. So it is something good. The second basis for this is that we truly believe that by placing greater emphasis on economic security, on geo-economics, Pakistan's future will be secured. And that's why all our programs in all the 5 centers are actually working on this. In fact, we had one of our centers, CSP, created another document on economic security, which we presented to Minister of State for Economy and Revenue, Dr. Asha Pasha, the other day. And that was for 6 months of hard work on that. These days, by the way, that center is focusing on human security. So you can see very clearly that our emphasis increasingly is on economic security and human security, because we think that will bolster our overall national security. Once again, I thank you all for joining us, and I can see our Ambassador Fawzia there, and then Azhar Saab, seeing you after a long time, and gentlemen from Palestine, and Michael, who shared the podium with me yesterday from Australia. Thank you for coming. So all of you, once again, very warm welcome, and we hope that you will find this event useful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now invite Ambassador Nagmana Hashmi for her remarks. Ambassador Hashmi has served as Pakistan's ambassador to China, European Union, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Ireland. During her successful 38 years career, she has also served in Denmark, France, and Indonesia. In Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she served in various capacities in the Department of Human Resource and Career Planning, United Nations Policy Planning and Public Diplomacy, and the Organization of Islamic Conference. I would now request Ambassador Nagmana Hashmi for her remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. As usual, I'm honored and delighted to be here. Naturally, when as Asab invites you to come here, it's not an invitation, it's an order for me, because I've had the honor and pleasure of serving with him, and I hold him in very, very high esteem. So I'm delighted to be here. I have also had the honor of serving in Southeast Asia. My brother, the ambassador of Indonesia, is there. I served in Indonesia in the early 1990s, and have very fond memories of the region. I would first and foremost like to congratulate the Institute of Strategic Studies for bringing out yet another extremely useful, well-researched, and a good publication. And for me, this is more important at this time, Because I remember when we joined the service way back in the 1980s, there was a buzzword in the Foreign Office, and that was look east. And there was a lot of focus on opening up to East Asia. And I remember a lot of very good ambassadors, one after the other, were posted to the ASEAN countries to, strengthen our already very good relations there, and particularly to explore areas of economic cooperation. And that was also the time when ASEAN had started to, although it was created much earlier, but it had really started to take shape. And I remember I was there because the headquarters of ASEAN was in Jakarta. So I remember canvassing very, very strongly for becoming the sectoral partner. And commerce and trade was one of the sectors that we were aiming for, and we became the sectoral partner. But after that, this was, way back in 1994, 95, 97, we finally joined. We got the status, but we joined a little later. In 97, if I'm not wrong, we finally became the sectoral partner. And from then on, we are there. We have really not graduated to a dialogue partner or a membership or whatever. But I have watched and I have seen how ASEAN has grown. And this book particularly, there are 2 or 3 things very important in this special edition that they have published in this publication, which I think not only missions should understand, but also it is very important that the business community of our country also understands, and the political leadership also understands. Now, there are many regional organizations. They have, some are successful, some are not that successful. We have the example of SAARC, which is, at a standstill. SCO is also not making much progress. So what are the elements? What are the factors that have made ASEAN so strong? I mean, there are 10 countries. They have territorial disputes among them too. They have their own political and strategic orientations, not only towards the region, but also with powers outside the region. And yet they are able to progress so well. If I'm not wrong, I think the inter-ASEAN trade today is much more than ASEAN's trade with the US or with China. So that goes to show that there is something right that they are doing. And I'm so glad that it's mentioned in this magazine as well, that it's the spirit of ASEAN. It is the focus on the socio-cultural aspects and of working together on the basis of minimum common denominator. So you have consensus and agreement on the minimum common denominator and commonalities, and on areas which are of common interest to everyone, and see where ASEAN has stood today. So I think there are lessons in that for Pakistan to emulate and learn from. Similarly, which is also mentioned here, it's a very multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-civilizational kind of a region, a very fast spread. These are islands. But still, we see that the concept of unity in diversity is somehow working. Despite the South China Sea issues and territorial issues, they are moving together as a good political force, and definitely a very big economic force. As far as our interaction with them is concerned, I'm very glad to see that the Institute has involved the practitioners of commerce and trade, but unfortunately, our ministries that deal with this and the organizations that are dealing with the with commerce and trade somehow are not focused on regions other than the West, which is, of course, the Americas and Western Europe, or Middle East. Their focus is really not that much on Southeast Asia. It has started to change a little bit, but I think more focus is required to be done. We need to educate our chambers of commerce, our businessmen, in a big way. So I would actually suggest, if that is possible, that this document be translated in Urdu and distributed to all the chambers and widely, and also be put on the net so people understand how they have succeeded and what are the opportunities that are there. I think that'll be a great service, and also to educate the Ministry of Commerce and other people to focus on this region, because there's great potential. And but somehow or the other, we have really not been able to tap that potential. And I do not want to repeat again, yes, it's a very good thing that we are now focusing on geo-economics, but geo-economics is not going to work alone unless we focus on developing our internal strength, and particularly with East Asia, because there are a lot of similarities. They are textile exporting nations. We are a textile export. They are asking for foreign investments and relocation of industry, particularly from China, and they have been very successful, where we are still struggling. So I think this is an area, a model from which Pakistan has a lot to gain, and we should focus more carefully on this region. So therefore, my compliments and congratulations on producing this. It's not a big book. It's very focused. It's very precise. It lays down very good recommendations and gives the background of why it is so successful and how Pakistan can enhance its relationship with Southeast Asia. I don't think the diplomatic relationship is lacking, because we work very closely with the Southeast Asian countries, particularly in the bilaterally also, but also particularly in the international organizations at UN. So there's nothing wrong with our political engagement with East Asia. They're very important countries. We send some of our best diplomats to these areas. I think what is lacking is a focused approach by the political leadership and the business leadership in the country to look at East Asia and benefit from its advantages. So thank you very much. I think it's a big public service that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Mr. Raja Amir Iqbal for his remarks. Mr. Amir Iqbal has previously served as the president of Rawalpindi Chamber of Commerce. He has also served as president, District Board of Management, Rawalpindi, and also as the chairman, All Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry Committee on CPEC. Sir, you have the floor.
अल्लाह के पाक नाम से जो नहायत रहमान और नहायत रहीम है. Excellencies, and I will say, Dr. Saab, it's a wonderful, actually, research work. This paper that I have read it actually myself twice, and it is an eye-opener for us, sir. But the mere fact is that a lot of things which you have actually written here were there in the market, but not in a one piece, actually. So it's I think a big achievement the AC has done, actually. It's for us in chambers and the trade actually bodies and other arenas, we can use this. And we as a chambers also, and we as a trade bodies, we have been working to explore the different markets for Pakistani exports. And this is one of the, I think, very good research work, which has given us a lead that we can also enter that. But the mere fact is there are a lot of eye-opening things that we have to tackle them also. And we have to resolve those issues if we really want to get into a link with the ASEAN region. I will say that with my experience, what I was reading this paper, and I was aware of that fact also, but you have given us data also here that whenever we sign the FTA, whenever we sign any trade agreement with any actually country, it is with the passage of time we have seen that the export from Pakistan decreases and import from that specific country or a region increases in Pakistan. It's a question that we have to answer ourselves also. To me, perhaps it looks like there are two possibilities. One possibility is that either the FTA, PTA that we have signed is not being done in favor of Pakistan by those who actually written this and signed this. It is the departments concerned are responsible for that. Second is perhaps they have done their homework well, and they have done something which is on merit basis. But the mere fact is that the cost of doing business in Pakistan is not competing with other countries. So this is also a policy matter, that why the cost of doing business in Pakistan is not as per in our region for that matter. If I talk of the South Asian region or the East Asian region, there are principally the responsibility is of the government of Pakistan, the concerned ministries. I will not touch the foreign affairs issue because that is not my ambit. But the mere fact is that the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of Industry, and the revenue departments, all these, and energy department, because you see that the cost of doing business, if as we are seeing in nowadays, that the cost per unit of electricity tariff, which is going every week, we are seeing it is going up. So how you expect from Pakistani industrialist or exporter that we can compete with other regions? That is also, I think, Dr. Sab, you should also keep in mind and add here that this paper is a very useful paper, a research paper, but it must be, it should be collate with other requisites also. Coming to another thing that I have seen after going through this and with my experience is, it is perhaps, it is needed also at the skilled workforce level that the government institutions and the departments concerned must take a very active role to bring the skilled workforce in Pakistan as per standard of our region, minimum I'm saying. I am not talking of a global, international. Because once we travel in different countries and we see the same industry, the same machinery run by hardly 1/10 of the people. Where here, if I quote, once I went to China, and actually there we were taken to one textile mill. And one tycoon from textile mill of Pakistan was with me, and he was totally upset after seeing 10 people were working there, just 10 people. And he told me later on in the hotel that, do you know, Raja, that I have 200 people in Faisalabad for the same unit working. So it is the efficiency of the workforce which is cutting down the cost of business entirely in the region. And ASEAN is an example for that. China is one of the, I think, leading country for that every day that we see, but we are on our traditional ways of learning, which needs to be actually taken initiative by the government, not by us. Please, I will say that I've been saying that this at many forums. I would like to reiterate this here also, that please don't expect from business people, community, that they will do a charity work. Anybody who's doing business, irrespective of what field that he or she is in, they have come to earn some profit on that. So research and development is one aspect that we may be ignoring. I'm not exonerating myself out of that, but the mere fact is, it is, you see the whole China emerge, whole other economies emerge. It is the government policies which help them. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, it is not happening. So I will say that is also something which needs to be done. I will say that the taxes in Pakistan, they are very exorbitant here in Pakistan within the region. If you look at that way, the Pak rupees parity, the dollar appreciation every day that we see, these are the hindrances, real issues that we face every day in the market. And there is no certain policy, long-term policy, unfortunately, that we don't learn from our mistakes and the history, and we don't want to learn out of our region even. Economies and GDP only can flourish, grow, if there is a consistent long-term policy. As an industrialist, as a trader, I'm telling you myself that if I really do not know after 3 years where my industry will go, how can I make my planning on such a long term of 20 years, 25 years for that matter? That is also lacking in Pakistan. And that should, I am not exonerating ourselves, but the government is major chunk is their responsibility, not ours. Do you know in Pakistan, industrial policy last, which was introduced was in 2010. Since then, there's no. And on a SME, this is our chambers and the trade bodies been raising voices. And since that, after such a long struggle, just 2 years back or 1.5 years back, they came up with this. I also want to say here that there are real issues as a Pakistani we also have faces. It is the green passport that we carry. It also have certain ramification. I'm not talking just businessmen, but first as a Pakistani national. So what is happening in South China Sea, and what is we have been seeing the Quad and AUKUS and all these things, the concerned ministries should take some measures well in time, so that if we have to build a better linkage of a trade with this region, so these should not become our hindrances, because it is very obvious that what is happening in the world, and as you have mentioned very rightly in this research paper also, that the global village is now transforming into two big blocks. So where will Pakistan go? It is my concern. Because as a Pakistani, I'm a businessman. My efforts are based on that, but I know because I've been trained on few courses, so it is very difficult to decide now. So you have to keep in mind this factor also, that the government should give an extra leverage to us to counter that losses that we may have to face there. I will say that non-tariff barriers are there. It is another issue that perhaps we have been seeing this in India also. I have traveled many times. I took 3 delegation also as a leader of the delegation, and I know there are non-tariff barriers there, and it is applicable across the region. It is not only in India that I blame just India for that matter. But why can't our people, officials who make policies, they can also evolve a mechanism where they can counter trade barriers here? They're totally benign on that. They're totally benign. And what a country where they say that you people are shying away from the actually competition. It's that I'm sharing my inner here, that this mindset needs to be changed. We have to emerge as a nation. We have to emerge as a nation like ASEAN, like China, like for that matter, all developed countries. They emerge as a nation, and the government and the institution concerned and the departments, they always backed the business people, because they know if the businesses goes up, the taxes will go up, the revenue will go up, the export will go up. And this is what the Developed countries are now using that as a geopolitics tool for a geopolitics for them. So I think this is another thing where we have to see a lesson and the challenges after Dr. Saab reading this research paper. I would just like to read 4 points here that if Singapore and Malaysia can depart from each other and within just 2 years of time, in 1964 they have a problem, rights, and in 1965 they decided to detach themselves into two different countries. And in 1967, they emerged as a bloc, 5 countries of ASEAN, and Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines and Thailand, Bangkok, fact that you referred, is there. So why can't we? Why we don't learn? And do you know that we were actually having Mahathir Mohamad as a chief guest in Malaysia in our my chamber's annual achievement award function. And there I asked him, I said, Excellency, can you tell me how amicably you divided Malaysia and why you divided? Because you were there. And do you know what he said to me? That, son, we wanted to have a peace dividend with our neighbors. And we are enjoying that peace dividend till today. So we have to decide as a nation, do you want this all what we say, it's a rhetoric that we say. But principally we have to know, as I myself know it very well, that businesses never flourish in isolation. They never. They are interlinked with all your policies. And I think that we have to learn. And then the challenges, like Excellencies here, Indonesia has taken a lead from Malaysia in palm oil. We are importing more palm oil out of Indonesia. Why? It is only because of their policies. The Malaysians were dominating export to Pakistan. And this is their policy that they attracted Leorin, the importer from Pakistan, and they have given certain concessions and lucrative, I will say, options to us. So it is, business means business. It's a penny which matters. But unfortunately, the mindset here in Pakistan is a different. That is also, I think, sir, you have to take your time with that. I will just say here that, again, I urge through this issue, stakeholders, I repeat this, please take them in confidence while making the economic related policies in Pakistan, because any policy which you draft in isolation with a mindset, like I gave an example here, and I say it openly to the Ministry of Finance and to the concerned department, FBR in Pakistan, that whatever budget that is announced in Pakistan, and I am witnessing for the last 20 years, my active life in business, is a target-driven budget. You just disperse the targets to the respective regional tax offices and large tax units, officials, that this is your target, you have to collect what may come, squeeze the already registered taxpayer. This mindset also needs to be changed. But I am thankful to you, sir, and thankful to your ISI also that you have done a wonderful work, sir. It's a beautiful paper, research work, and thank you very much for giving me opportunity. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Mr. Majid Aziz for his remarks. He's joining us on Zoom today. Mr. Aziz is currently the president of UN Global Compact Network, Pakistan. He has previously served as the president, Employers Federation of Pakistan. He has also served as president of Karachi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me properly? Hello. Excellencies.
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Excellencies, my colleague Raja Saab, Dr. Talat Shabir, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I want to compliment CPSC for preparing and presenting a very essential study that was long overdue. I'm sure that policymakers as well as private sector would not only study it, but initiate steps to seriously look towards East Asia more pragmatically. For years, we, the private sector, have been talking about the importance of a geo-economics environment instead of just a geostrategic position that many keep harping on. You know, I remember in 2007, the then Foreign Minister, Mr. Kasuri, he asked me to, in a way, he said, he wanted to visit the Karachi Chamber of Commerce Industry and wanted me to suggest a topic. And I said economic diplomacy. And he, at that time, 15, 16 years ago, gave a very marvelous presentation. But now, finally, the policymakers and people in the corridors of powers have accepted the fact that the paradigm shift towards the geo-economics policy is what Pakistan really needs. A geostrategic policy, of course, has its positive impacts since Pakistan is located in such a strategic on the map, However, what is the ground reality? A belligerent neighbor on the east, a troubled, insensitive, and unreliable neighbor across the Durand line, while relation with the western neighbor is handicapped due to economic sanctions. I don't call it economic sanctions, I call it economic terrorism. Then there is distrust due to still unresolved sectarian divide and others. While sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's an issue here, Anyway, what I would like to say is that, as Raja Sahab said, this study, in my opinion, is an eye-opener for all. And it is high time we initiate a strategy and action plan to seriously look towards East. When I was the president of the Employees Federation of Pakistan, we established the Economic Council, which is a research body and think tank. We prepare studies on many aspects. And right now we are promoting minerals to chemicals, especially for value-added exports. And moreover, in 2019, we took a delegation of genuine businessmen and industrialists who import or export with the Philippines. In one trip, we were able to resolve nearly all issues that were hampering trade and giving heartburns. I think this one example is to emphasize that any private sector organization representing genuine industrialists and businessmen can create a critical mass, and that EFP, because EFP does not believe in joy trips, unlike many other trade bodies. Now, Pakistani businessmen and major importers of commodities, products, and services from East Asia. And this is the prime reason why private sector is keen on free trade or agreements or preferential trade agreements. We have an FTA with Malaysia and PTA with Indonesia. However, Pakistan has not made any formidable inroads in signing these agreements with other ASEAN countries. And Raja Saab also mentioned that. As the first elected president of the South Asian Forum of Employers, I was able to sign an agreement with the president of the ASEAN Confederation of Employers. And our domain is, of course, industrial relations, ILO, international labor standards, workers, migration, etc., etc. But we were able to bring both SAFE and ACE together and held joint programs to ensure unity and a common voice at international forums. Just this is another example of what private sector can achieve. Now, if we go through the trade figures and the potential mentioned in the study, we'll accept the fact that Pakistan can make progress in developing more and better bilateral trade and even investment relations with the 10 ASEAN countries. It was mentioned about tourism also. Now, many ASEAN countries have a lot of Buddhist population. If we can do a Kartarpur in Pakistan for the Sikh community, can't we do the same for the Buddhist community and attract more tourists in Pakistan? And that can be done. And we have so many holy places for the Buddhist community here. Now, there was a mention in this study about the Pakistani diaspora in the East Asia. But with all due respect to them, I'm really skeptical about their influence and their access to people who matter in these countries. There is an imperative need for Pakistani diplomats to be proactive and must develop a strong relationship with the private sector in those countries. And I'm glad that a lot of our diplomats there have taken up this task, and we have seen how proactive they have become. Now, let me quote you one more example. His Excellency the Ambassador of Indonesia is present here. My family company introduced Indonesian coal in Pakistan at a time when the energy shortage affected industrial growth. And this relationship also enabled us to facilitate Pakistan exports, such as rice, exercise some Asian countries. We made that possible. I am the founding chairman of the Pakistan-Indonesia Business Forum. And we have been very active in also taking delegations to Indonesia for the trade fairs. And we get a lot of feedback also from the Indonesian consulate and embassy in Pakistan. Raja Saab mentioned palm oil. Yes, everything was with Malaysia regarding palm oil, but now there's been a shift to Indonesia, and my company is also heavily involved in importing palm oil. And I think that although we may not be exporting that, we may be net importers, but the bilateral trade relations is positive in any aspect. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the prime challenge is really a pragmatic revisit of the East Asia strategy. In the past, I don't think it has been a priority of successive governments, and that is why we have seldom received diplomatic support at world forums from them. At the same time, the current strategy has not helped Pakistan in garnering a positive image or perception. And ladies and gentlemen, today perception is the new reality among the ASEAN countries. Despite the fact that there are 3 Muslim countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, Pakistan has not taken full advantage of the influence of these 3 countries to remove any roadblocks in developing cordial relations with the other 7 nations. It must be understood that it takes a long time. It takes a consensus of all 10 ASEAN countries. It takes a proven precedence to enable ASEAN to invite Pakistan to be a full dialogue partner. The basic question is whether Pakistan has the critical mass to achieve this status. Pakistan is also not even member of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, naturally due to strong opposition of one country. And despite continued efforts of the Pakistani decision makers, I would like to know if Pakistan has support of the other IOR Muslim nations like Iran, UAE, Malaysia, Indonesia. If Pakistan had been an IOR member, I think the case of Pakistan would have been considerably positive in ASEAN. Now, in conclusion, Pakistan's the new geo-economic policy must include more emphasis on Asia rather than just Europe or USA. Regional economic cooperation has chances of more success and economic prosperity than focusing on just a few regions. However, the success of the geo-economic policy primarily depends on a combination of economic, defense, and diplomatic initiatives that must be enlightened, modernistic, liberal, and effective. Now, is it, taking the study as a starting point, I think a strong, sincere brainstorming, private sector, with the diplomats, with other policy makers, etc., must be organized to really come up with some kind of a roadmap. We still don't have a roadmap regarding Asia, but we have to do it. We can't just be limited into having trade with a limited number of countries, and with other countries it's just peanuts, So I would end here with my favorite motto, ladies and gentlemen, is that when no one can do it, Pakistan can. Pakistan Zindabad. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request the chief guest of this event, Ambassador Mumtaz Zahra Baloch, to deliver her address. Ambassador Baloch is currently serving as the Additional Secretary for Asia and Pacific at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Pakistan. Previously, she has served as Pakistan's Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, Director, Security Council and Human Rights, United Nations Division, Deputy Chief of Mission, Ambassador of Pakistan, Beijing, Counselor for Political Affairs, Washington, D.C., Acting DG Foreign Service Academy, and has served at various other important positions. She holds a master's in international relations from the Fletcher School at Tufts University. I would now request Ambassador Mumtaz Zahra Baloch for her remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It is my great honor and privilege to attend today's event, the launch of the special study titled Towards Geo-Economic Engaging East Asia. Thank you, Ambassador Azaz Chaudhry, for giving me the honor of sharing the stage with you. You are a role model for all of us in the Foreign Service, and with Madam Naghmana, who was my ambassador while I was the DCM in China. So first of all, I must congratulate Ambassador Azaz Chaudhry and Dr. Talat for producing this document on such an important area of focus for Pakistan's foreign policy. Indeed, East Asia, that has long been an engine of economic growth, is fast becoming an arena of strategic interest and competition among major powers with far-reaching implications for countries such as Pakistan. The study that the Institute is launching today evaluates the progress and identifies challenges in our engagements with East Asia. It also presents some concrete recommendations to promote Pakistan's ties with countries in the region. And I have gone through the study, and the quality of the study speaks for itself. The recommendations made therein would be a good reference point for policymakers, including in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in our engagements with the region. And I must here acknowledge the presence of my two very good friends, the ambassadors of Vietnam and Indonesia. Thank you for joining us today. Our relations with the countries of East Asia are based on historic, cultural ties and linkages. And since independence, Pakistan's relations with East Asia have continued to grow in all dimensions. And only last week, when we were celebrating the 75th Independence Day of Vietnam, Excellency, we were informed that Pakistan established its relations with Vietnam in 1972 at the height of the war that was taking place. So we have a history of relations with these countries. Pakistan's foreign policy recognized the economic significance of Southeast Asia in 1990s and made relations with ASEAN a key pillar of Vision East Asia. We established diplomatic ties with diplomatic ties and have opened our embassies with all ASEAN member countries and instituted bilateral dialogue mechanisms. Pakistan also moved to develop relations with ASEAN as an institution, becoming sectoral dialogue partner and later joining the ASEAN Regional Forum. During the decades of early 2000s, Pakistan was preoccupied with its immediate neighborhood and some domestic challenges, as we all know. And this engagement lost some steam, especially as ASEAN imposed a moratorium on new full dialogue partners. However, our economic dimension, the economic dimension of our relations with countries of the region continued to develop. And now it has become even more important to engage with this region in the context of the central position according to Geo-Economics in Pakistan's national security policy. There is a concerted effort to renew and strengthen our engagement with countries in the region and with ASEAN as an institution. We will be highlighting this as we develop Vision East Asia 2.0 with high-level engagements, dialogue processes, and economic diplomacy taking center stage. It is a fact that Pakistan's trade with the region remains much below our potential. Studies after studies have shown that there is great potential for enhanced trade and a potential boost to our exports if FTAs are concluded with countries in the region. And Raja Saab, this is for you, that there are studies that have been conducted. It is also a reality that we have not been able to optimally leverage our existing trade agreements with countries of the region, while new FTAs could not move forward after an initial fervor. A major challenge in the traditional focus is the traditional focus of Pakistani exporters to Europe and North America, which means our missions in East Asia need to make extra effort to gain the attention of our exporters for trade with countries in the region. We are now making efforts to gain the attention of the private sector in promoting trade with ASEAN countries. RCCI, the Rawalpindi Chamber of Commerce, for example, is opening an ASEAN desk to promote trade with ASEAN countries. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is organizing a trade conference with ASEAN countries and the Lahore Chamber of Commerce. And next year in January, Ministry of Commerce will be organizing the first Pakistan-ASEAN Trade Development Conference, which will contribute, we hope, to growth of trade with ASEAN. Another challenge for our trade with countries in the region is that Pakistan remains outside almost all regional trading regimes. which restricts our ability to expand our trade with these countries as our exports face unfair competition from countries in these trading blocs. It is important to develop new mechanisms to facilitate access of countries outside economic blocs to ensure that the policies of these blocs do not become new forms of protectionism and barriers in global and regional trade. As we develop a propitious trading environment, bilateral investments need to develop as a priority. Republic of Korea and Japan are the major investors from the region, with emerging new partners from ASEAN as Pakistan's new investment partners. We welcome them to take advantage of the enormous opportunities that have arisen in the region in recent years and to invest in our special economic zones. As in Pakistan, we need to develop new opportunities for mutual growth and prosperity and welcome companies from East Asia to invest in Pakistan by providing a healthy investment climate for foreign investors. But the reality is that not all aspects of leveraging geoeconomics are in the control of developing countries. Challenge is that the free trade and global trading regime underpinned by World Trade Organization has been gradually eroding. There is a growing cleavage in the international economic and financial system. And we are seeing increasing protectionism and narrow self-interest that has disrupted global supply chains with implications for global trade. So geopolitics and geoeconomics are increasingly restricting space for countries to make common sense trade restrictions. This is where Pakistan needs to partner with friendly countries, especially in ASEAN, to protect itself from the headwinds of geopolitical rivalry growing in our region. And this is where our future dialogue with ASEAN countries will focus, how to protect ourselves with these new headwinds to global trade and regional trade. Lastly, our engagement with ASEAN as an institution is also a priority. We will be focusing on enhancing our partnership with ASEAN, strengthen our dialogue processes, and expanding the areas of collaboration with ASEAN. The recommendations that you have made in the study that you're launching today are very constructive, that I can assure you will receive highest attention in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I would, however, encourage you to consider whenever time permits, to develop a second edition of engaging East Asia in terms of regional organizations, including ASEAN, because this book, this study was mostly focused on individual countries and not with the institutions, including ASEAN. So this could be the second study or the second version of your study, which could be very helpful for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all students of foreign policy and of this region. So with that, I would like to thank you, Ambassador, and all the participants for their attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Ambassador Azaz Ahmed Chaudhry, Ambassador Mumtaz Zahra Baloch, Dr. Talat Shabir, Ambassador Nagmana Hashmi, Mr. Raja Amir Iqbal, and Team CPSC to come forward for the ceremonial display of the report.